This here, guys, is the new third generation Porsche Cayenne facelift, already launched in Malaysia merely months after its initial global debut. And not only that, it's also locally assembled right here in Malaysia in Kulim, Kedah, the very first Porsche factory outside of Europe. And while it may not be clear to you, this is one of Porsche's most extensive facelifts of recent years. It has completely reworked exterior, interior, and even under the skin. So let's check out the fine details. Let's begin with prices. The Cayenne now starts at just under 600,000 ringgit here in Malaysia. That's 599,999. That is actually close enough to both the BMW X5 and the Mercedes-Benz GLE. But come on, here you're getting a Porsche that's a whole different level of prestige and exclusivity. And don't think for a second that Dabi Auto Performance has skimmed down on specs to keep the price competitive, because our Malaysian market Cayenne over here is full of extras that would have been expensive options in most other markets. This includes things like air suspension all around, soft closing doors, sport chrono package, Bose sound system, and a full active safety driving systems. On the last part, you may think that obviously a car like this should have it all, but let's not forget the BMW X5 here in Malaysia doesn't. Now let's talk about the facelift itself, because the entire front end is actually new. Porsche has swapped out the side fenders, the bonnet, and the entire front grille. This gives it a much more modern look overall. The headlights are obviously new as well. They are now much wider, much sharper in shape, and even the details are really nice. The 4-point LED DRLs look far better than before, and the headlights now have Matrix Adaptive High Beam function as standard. Put everything together and you now have a much flatter, wider, and lower looking front end. The center air intake especially has been made more squared off. This is to draw more visual connections to the 992 generation 911. I'll admit, by itself, this doesn't look all that different to the previous version, but if you put the two side by side, this clearly looks much better and far more modern. What hasn't been changed is the engine. This has the same 3-litre turbo V6 as before, but obviously its outputs have been massaged on a little bit. This now makes 353 PS and a full 500 Newton meters of torque. That is an increase of 13 PS and 50 Nm. Through an 8-speed Tiptronic S torque converter sending power to all 4 wheels, this car gets from 0 to 100 in just 5.7 seconds. Now, this may be the base Porsche by all intents and purposes, but clearly it's a Porsche, so its standards are far higher than others. The only thing that would even suggest that this is the base Porsche are these 20-inch standard wheels. Now these, if you're just so used to big giant wheels from before, may look a touch undersized, and the tires are also Hankok's, which don't really scream luxury. On the other hand, the smaller wheels with the thicker sidewalls will offer even better ride quality, which everyone will enjoy. In any case, if you're really not a fan of these wheels, you can option up larger wheels. You've got the 21s for an extra 45,000, or the top spec 22s for an extra 49,000. If you get either of those two, you also get Pirelli tires, so that solves that issue at least. Plus, if you get the bigger wheel options, this small trim around the wheel arches are also swapped out for body color items instead of being plain black plastic on this car. Visually, that makes a big difference. Also new for the facelift is the full air suspension system, which again is a big expensive option in most other markets, but fitted as standard here in Malaysia. It has also been completely re-engineered for the facelift, now with a 2-chamber, 2-valve technology. This promises big improvements all around, including ride comfort and driving dynamics. Porsche calls this the sports car for 5, and here it's not mere marketing talk. Now onto the back, where again the Cayenne facelift receives fresh bodywork. The entire tailgate is now new. This houses the updated 3D full-width LED taillights, which in person look absolutely fantastic. Even the Porsche letterings have been made more prominent than before. Another major change is the placement of the number plate. It has been moved down from the tailgate to the rear bumper. This gives the Cayenne an even cleaner look and brings it more in line with the Taycan. Inside, the Cayenne facelift brings major changes even more than on the outside. The general layout may be similar to the old model, but all the smaller details have been completely reworked, and I think it is the far better for it. The biggest difference is the move from the traditional Porsche 5-dial display into a full digital instrument cluster over here. This is taken from the full electric Taycan, and it just lifts the cabin up to feel far more modern than before. You'll also notice that there isn't a normal gear lever in the middle here because it has been moved to a small gear selector right by the steering wheel. This again matches the Taycan and even the latest 911 models. By doing that, Porsche has cleared up the center console over here for added storage. There is this new center cubby over here where you can put your keys, coins, or phones, wallets and whatnot. Interestingly though, Sime Darby Auto Performance has still kept the full Porsche smoking package on the local car. You get this ashtray over here and you even get a cigarette lighter as standard. The infotainment system has also been updated to the latest OS, and thankfully there is still a good mix of touchscreen controls and physical buttons down here. All the aircon controls still use proper physical buttons, and there is still a proper volume knob right in the center. That's fantastic. One thing to note though, here in Malaysia we don't get the secondary screen for the front passenger, which is available in a few other markets. But for the most part, the second screen is usually useless, so you're not really missing out on much. Another small but significant change is the move from Porsche's old, turnkey knob to start the car to a good old push start button on this car. That is a change that has taken Porsche way too long to make, but at least we're finally here. One last thing before we move on is the build quality in here. From everything you can see and everything you can touch, this is clearly a step above both BMW and Mercedes-Benz SUVs. This clearly feels like the more expensive product. The leather, the stitching, even the plastic bits feel way more luxurious and more premium. Moving on to the back, this is clearly a very big and spacious car. For your reference, I am 167 centimeters tall and I've got plenty of legroom and headroom left. The seats are also especially comfortable. The base is nice and long, very supportive, and the backrest can be adjusted to whatever angle that you like. You can even slide the seat back and forth if you want to free up even more boot space, which I'll show you in a bit. Is pretty massive, and the bench itself is really wide. You can easily fit 3 adults back here, although the center hump over here is pretty chunky, so you may be fighting for foot space. The stunning red leather seats that you see here are actually no-cost options here in Malaysia. If this red is a little bit too flashy for you, you can just get the standard black. Either way, you get high quality leather all around. You also get leather on the rear door cards, which is a nice touch, plus powered sunshades to cover up the rear windows. Another optional extra that you can spec in is a pair of rear entertainment screens for an additional 13,500 ringgit. The Cayenne's boot is absolutely massive at nearly 800 litres. Under the floor, you'll find a large subwoofer for the Bose sound system and a tyre repair kit in place of a spare tyre. So that's the new Porsche Cayenne facelift for the Malaysian market. What do you think of the updated looks and the new interior? Let me know in the comment section below. We'll be taking this car for a full review very soon, so stay tuned for that. For now, thank you for watching and stay safe everyone.